The Brazilian doesn't arrive at a place, they land in it with their entire body, their entire attention, their entire soul present in a way that makes everyone else in the room suddenly aware that they've been existing at half capacity, going through the motions of conversation and connection while their minds are somewhere else. Their phones are buzzing in their pockets, their eyes are scanning for the next thing. The next person, the next opportunity. But the Brazilian walks in and somehow manages to make you feel like you're the only person in the universe that matters in this exact moment. Not because they're performing interest or practicing some technique they learned in a charisma workshop, but because presence is their default setting. Because being fully here, fully now, fully engaged with whatever human is standing in front of them is as natural to them as breathing. And you can't fake that kind of attention. You can't manufacture that kind of warmth. You can't learn in a seminar what the Brazilian absorbs from the womb. This understanding that time is a gift you give to people by actually being there when you're there, by letting your face show what you're feeling, by making eye contact that doesn't dart away after 2 seconds to check who else is more important. By listening like the conversation matters more than whatever notification is trying to steal your focus from the sacred act of human connection, happening right now in real time with real presence that the rest of the world has forgotten how to offer, because they're too busy optimizing, strategizing, networking, performing, while the Brazilian is just existing in full color, in a world that's learned to live in grayscale efficiency. You've seen it happen. The way a Brazilian enters a conversation and somehow everyone relaxes. The way tension dissolves when they show up because their energy says we have time, there's no rush, you matter, this moment matters. Let's be here together without the pressure to be anywhere else or anyone else. And suddenly you realize you've been holding your breath in every other interaction. You've been half present in every other conversation. You've been rationing your attention like it's a limited resource that needs to be carefully distributed across multiple platforms and people and responsibilities. But the Brazilian gives you their full attention like it's infinite, like there's enough presence to go around. Like being fully engaged with you right now doesn't mean they're neglecting something more important, because in their world, nothing is more important than the human standing in front of them asking to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged as real and valuable and worth the investment of undivided attention. You've learned to multitask your way through relationships, to scan your phone while someone is talking, to compose your next response while they're still speaking, to be physically present, but mentally absent, because that's what efficiency looks like in a culture that values productivity over connection, that measures worth by output instead of depth, that teaches you to spread yourself thin across 1,000 shallow interactions, instead of going deep with the few people who are right here right now, trying to reach you through the wall of distraction you've built between yourself and genuine human contact. You've been trained to think that presence is a luxury you can't afford. That giving someone your full attention is wasteful when you could be checking emails or scrolling feeds or staying on top of the constant stream of information and obligation that defines modern existence. And so you've learned to exist in this half state where you're never fully anywhere, never fully with anyone, always one foot out the door, always one eye on the exit, always ready to pivot to the next thing, because staying fully present with what's happening right now feels dangerous, feels vulnerable, feels like you might miss something more important happening somewhere else. The brutal truth that makes other cultures uncomfortable is that Brazilian presence is a form of power that can't be manufactured or taught. It's cultural inheritance that comes from a way of being in the world that prioritizes connection over achievement, that values warmth over efficiency, that understands that the point of being human is not to accomplish as much as possible, but to experience as deeply as possible. And that depth requires presence, requires showing up fully, requires giving people the gift of your undivided attention in a world where attention has become the scarcest resource and everyone is hoarding theirs like it might run out if they give too much away. The Brazilian doesn't hoard attention, they pour it out generously, lavishly, without calculation or strategy. And the effect is magnetic because people are starving for this kind of presence, desperate for someone to actually see them instead of seeing through them to the next opportunity. Hungry for conversations that aren't just transactions but actual moments of human connection that leave both people changed by the encounter. Not because anything profound was said, but because something profound was felt, which is the experience of being fully witnessed by another human who isn't performing interest but genuinely offering it. You can start to understand why the world is fascinated with Brazilian energy, why people come to Brazil and say they can't explain what it is, but something is different here. Something feels more alive, more real, more human, and what they're feeling is the difference between a culture that treats presence as a performance and a culture that treats presence as a birthright, where showing up fully isn't a special occasion behavior, but the default mode of interaction, where giving someone your full attention isn't considered extraordinary but ordinary, where being engaged with the moment you're in instead of the moment you wish you were in, or the moment you need to prepare for, is just how humans are supposed to exist together. The practical implication of understanding Brazilian presence isn't that you need to become Brazilian, it's that you need to recognize what you've lost in the pursuit of efficiency, which is the ability to be where you are when you're there, to give people the gift of not having to compete with your phone or your to-do list, or your anxiety about the future for your attention in the present, to practice the radical act of showing up fully even when it feels wasteful, even when it feels inefficient. Even when every conditioning you've received tells you that time spent just being with someone without agenda or objective or measurable outcome is time wasted, because the Brazilian knows what you've forgotten, which is that the point of human existence isn't to maximize productivity, but to maximize presence, to collect moments of genuine connection instead of accomplishments, to measure your life not by what you achieved, but by how fully you showed up for the people who crossed your path and needed to be seen by eyes that weren't scanning for the exit, needed to be heard by ears that weren't half listening while planning the next response, needed to be felt by a heart that was actually present in the conversation instead of being scattered across 1,000 other obligations and distractions. You can practice what the Brazilian does naturally by making the deliberate choice to put your phone away when someone is speaking. Not just face down, but actually away, out of sight. Because even the presence of it on the table signals that you're available to be interrupted by something more important than this human in front of you. And you can practice maintaining eye contact, not in the aggressive staring way, but in the gentle sustained attention way that says, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm not mentally composing my shopping list while you're sharing your heart, I'm actually with you in this moment that we're creating together. You can practice slowing down your response time, not rushing to fill every silence with your next thought, but actually letting their words land in you, letting yourself feel what they're feeling, letting the conversation breathe instead of suffocating it with your need to be efficient or impressive or done with this, so you can move on to the next thing. Because presence requires space, and space requires that you resist the urge to optimize every moment for maximum productivity, and instead allow moments to unfold at their natural pace, which is usually slower than the pace you've been conditioned to maintain. You can learn from the Brazilian that presence is a form of generosity. That giving someone your full attention is one of the most valuable gifts you can offer in a world where everyone is rationing their attention like it's going to run out. And the irony is that attention doesn't run out when you give it away. It actually multiplies. Because the more present you are with people, the more alive you feel, the more connected you become. The more your relationships deepen beyond the superficial networking level into actual intimacy that sustains you in ways that productivity and achievement never can. Because humans aren't designed to live on accomplishment. They're designed to live on connection. And connection requires presence, requires showing up, requires offering people the experience of being seen and heard and valued, not for what they can do for you, but for who they are in this moment that you're sharing together, without agenda or objective or measurable outcome beyond the simple, profound gift of being human together, in a world that keeps trying to turn everyone into machines. The Brazilian doesn't need to learn how to be present, because they never forgot, they never traded their humanity for efficiency. They never bought the lie that multitasking is a virtue, and single-tasking is wasteful. They never accepted the premise that human connection should be optimized for maximum productivity instead of maximum depth. And this is why when a Brazilian shows up, they don't just enter a room, they transform it. They shift the energy from transactional to relational, from scattered to focused, from half-present to fully present. And everyone feels it, even if they can't name it. Feels the relief of being with someone who isn't mentally somewhere else, who isn't performing connection while actually calculating their next move, who is genuinely here, genuinely interested, genuinely offering the kind of attention that humans are desperate for but have learned to live without because everyone else is just as distracted, just as divided, just as unable to show up fully because they've forgotten that presence is the foundation of everything that matters, that without it you can accomplish everything and still feel empty. You can network with thousands and still feel lonely. You can optimize your entire life and still miss the point, which is that you're here to be present, to connect, to offer people the gift of your full attention in a world that's trying to steal it away, one notification at a time, one obligation at a time, one distraction at a time, until you're spread so thin across so many shallow interactions that you've forgotten what it feels like to go deep with another human who is right here, right now, asking to be seen by eyes that actually look, to be heard by ears that actually listen, to be felt by a heart that's actually present instead of being scattered across 1,000 other moments that aren't this one, this sacred, ordinary moment of human connection that the Brazilian understands is the whole point of being alive.